On a planet called Origin, many animals evolved the capacity to use their eyes for more than just vision. It's not the same as magic, which costs mana, but psychic is classified as one of the 12 magical elements that can be accessed via magic. For example, fire isn't magic and can be summoned without magic with the proper tools or organs, but it can also be summoned with magic using mana. The two often have a lot of overlap, and most animals with organs allowing for fire breathing or something similar are also fire elementals that use fire magic even though they don't technically need magic to create fire. Hope that made sense. First, let's get an understanding of what psychic power is. It can't be accessed without vision, which is probably why its symbol depicts an eye. When you look at something, the light is reflecting off an object to reach your eyes and get processed by your brain. Light from your eyes is also hitting whatever you're looking at, and this exchange happens to pretty much anything in your line of sight. This is where the story ends for most animals, but the psychic element allows for more. It allows one to take advantage of the link of light between an eye and anything in its line of sight. Although it's an extension of vision, some consider it a new psychic sense for reasons I'll get into in a sec. Psychic is one of the more powerful elements, allowing for tactics like moving things without touching them to causing hallucinations. Psychic elementals have an organ or extension of their brain that intensifies this ability without magic, while mages can achieve similar results at the cost of mana. Like I said, psychic seems to be just an extension of vision, but a mutation can occur that complicates things. Called the mind's eye, it occurs in many life forms, including many people. It allows one to see without seeing, but in such a limited way that it's confined to what they've already seen. With the right kind of brain power though, it can become much more powerful than psychic magic. Known as a dark element, it can be practiced in the absence of light or vision at all. Dark elementals always evolve from psychic elementals, usually when adapting to somewhere with little light. Having a mind's eye doesn't mean an animal is a dark elemental, but a psychic or former psychic elemental with a mind's eye is a dark elemental. It's very possible and somewhat common to have both. The most infamous example of dark magic is that of the witch, which is capable of altering DNA, likely due to their understanding of DNA, how it works, and how it looks. In this video, I'll talk about 4 psychic elementals and 3 dark elementals, and how they evolved that. First is the Tarsier, a nocturnal primate that lives in dark jungles. Primates tend to prioritize vision over most other senses compared to other animals, probably because they're ancestrally diurnal. Likely because of competition or predation, the ancestors of Tarsiers were pushed back into nocturnality. But instead of speccing back into smell and hearing, they went all into vision. Most likely, they had already developed the psychic element by this time, so the ones that kept good eyesight rather than losing it survived better. Using its power, Tarsiers can sense movement when they look at things at an amazing scale, being able to see insects walking on the opposite side of a branch from where they are, just because of this slight movement. While they mostly eat insects, Tarsiers are infamous for catching small lizards and baby birds. They're the only known primate that's entirely carnivorous. Next is the Haemohead shrew, which is not classified in the order Eulibotypha with true shrews, but is actually more closely related to primates. Contrary to its common name, the Haemohead's head isn't just a big bag of blood, instead being home to a giant brain. Most of its brain isn't used for computing power, instead it's essentially an oversized vision center. It allows the Haemohead to make the most of its psychic power, even if its eyes aren't especially large. It may seem like overkill, but this specialization allows it to become a horrifying predator to prey multiple times its size. It seems like the Haemohead's ability only works at close range, but it has the power to rend flesh and dislocate bones when something is within a 20 centimeter range. This means that an attacking jaguar could get its head bisected if a Haemohead catches it going for a bite in time. The weird little critter also uses its power to liquidate the most nutritious parts of its prey and put that straight into its mouth. Haemoheads are strange in that they hunt like apex predators, but also get preyed on like something more like their size. I mean, they're strange in a lot of ways, but you get what I mean. They require unholy amounts of food to maintain their power, but it seems worth it. Their huge head and striking colors are also likely used for mate attraction, but the colors could also be warning colors. Anyone in a lush South Anthropocene forest is advised to turn back or reroute if they see those colors, so it definitely does work. A much larger psychic elemental is Doludon. It's a pseudoja form of which almost all are psychic. They're ancestrally psychic, but one evolves dark. Doludons have a giant anomalous third eye, which rarely evolves in vertebrates, much less mammals. Doludons are missing the pineal gland, so it's possible that their eye evolved from that gland as a sort of parietal eye. Recent studies have found that it regulates their circadian rhythm, which helps that theory. A parietal eye usually evolves in cold-blooded vertebrates and helps them in thermoregulation as well as the circadian rhythm. The parietal eye is useless to warm-blooded animals in respect to thermoregulation, which is why it almost never evolves in them, but it seems like Doludon found another use. To be clear, the parietal eye doesn't usually look like a fully developed eye, so we shouldn't say confidently that that's what Doludon has. Still, it's evolved whatever that is, so why? How? It may have to do with some kind of crazy mutation that would normally be detrimental to survival, but stayed in Doludons because that giant eye allowed for so much range in their vision and psychic power. They can see for kilometers, even in water, and anything they see is fair game for their psychic power. They have huge brains, but much of it goes into cognition and regular brain stuff, so there's nothing crazy going into psychic power. Still, they can dish out powerful attacks in water and shake fish to death before they even reach its jaws. They partake in a lot of recreation using their psychic and have been shown to make beautiful displays from colorful sea life. They also build tools, and a population off the North Oriental coast has been observed using rusty, sunken swords as weapons to kill prey. The third eye isn't found in any other pseudogiforms or mammals, and seems to have appeared relatively suddenly in the fossil record. Because of their aquatic nature and recent evolution, fossils aren't common. The oil siren is a psychic elemental found in Middle Anthropocene lakes and ponds. They were only discovered in the last decade, as the area they lived in was covered in black gold and they came up out of the water more often. They're large amphibians with huge eyes that are mostly aquatic and have low efficiency gills, but they're also obligate air breathers that can move around on land when it's damp or rainy. They can separate water from black gold just by looking at it, and have been seen working in groups to push the impurities out of their lake into other ponds. If you're in the black wetlands of Middle Anthroposia and come across a clean lake, it may be best to keep your distance. These animals hate people and attack intruders into their lake on sight. They have high range and low power, but they can tear someone apart when they work in groups. Oil sirens are derived salamanders and evolved neotenic features as they went back into more aquatic lifestyles. There's a decent diversity of sirens, but the oil siren is the largest and most intelligent. The first dark elemental I want to talk about is the orc. It's a suid related to today's domesticated pigs. According to lichen historians, orcs evolved from a different lineage of domesticated hogs from the lichen ages millions of years ago. Their domestic hogs were psychic elementals and were forced to wear blindfolds to stop them from being mischievous and trying to escape. This worked for a long time, but one day a hog was born with a mind's eye. It was blindfolded before it reached adulthood, but it always remembered the sight it had and could sort of see things in its mind. By feeling around, it was able to sort of see its environment, and not only escaped a farm, but it did it in such a way that many other hogs escaped and caused a crisis of invasive hogs, even though they were all still blindfolded. Over millions of years at this point, they've been solidified as fearsome dark elementals called orcs. Because today's Esperiki domestic pigs are also psychic elementals and also blindfolded as a practice, lichens have been warning of a similar disaster happening for years. While orcs descended from Suids in the Orient, this disaster happened in the Occident from pigs that were brought over things to trade. Nobody would think they could survive in an environment with the ancestors of king dragons, megatooth cats, muru cruors, and griho busalucos, but they thrive even to this day. They move fast and are smart enough to remember what their threats look like and use their mind's eye to track them without seeing them. Because they live in such a harsh environment, they're extremely aggressive. While they mostly eat roots and mushrooms they forage, they will happily eat an animal they gored or scavenged. The Cachalot is the only pseudogiform that evolved the dark element. They dive deeper than any known mammal, engaging in lightless battles that leave them with scars for the rest of their lives. No one has ever seen a fight happen, or even an individual of the species they probably fight with, but beaks reminiscent of squids have been found in their stomachs, and many of their scars resemble scars from squid suckers. The twist is that these beaks and suckers are many times larger than any squid anyone has seen alive. While not a whole lot is known about the Cachalot, it's likely they evolved their dark elemental power to be able to continue hunting with an advantage, even when there's no light. The Moceril Olm is a dark elemental that is almost completely blind. It lives in lightless caverns and depends on its smell and electroreceptors to understand its surroundings. They can sense light and prefer to stay away from it, but a bright light won't be enough to keep them away if you stick around for too long. While Olms are primarily aquatic, the Moceril is not afraid to hunt on land if necessary. They're faster than you'd think, and while their skin is thin and soft, their robust bones defend their most vulnerable points. While it's not at all common to be killed by a Moceril, many encounters end with a lost leg or even an arm if the victim wasn't careful. Despite all that, some people think they're cute and try to keep them as pets. It seems as long as things are dark and warm and there's plenty of food, they're actually quite docile. They take up a lot of space and are high maintenance, but as long as the Moceril is happy and the person who took them is too, I guess that's fine. But that's all I got for this video. Thanks Captain Kobop, Art of Dying, Saint Starman, and Aster for supporting me on Patreon. Hope you thought this video was neat, even if it was more brazenly fantastical. Thanks for watching.